What is up, guys? Dadbod here, and it is finally time. We're getting started with my complete guide through Elden Ring. This will be an end-to-end walkthrough of the entire game, which is a daunting task because this game is massive, but it is also a masterpiece, so I cannot wait to go through this entire game with y'all. This will get you all your trophies, all your achievements. For those of you who are new to these types of games, this build will be very easy to follow. My strategies will be very repeatable and friendly to new players and seasoned veterans alike. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Cannot wait to get started. Let's go. All right, so when you create a new character here, we're gonna have a choice for different starting classes. You'll see that, they have different stats and different, some of them are different starting levels, all the way down to level 1 if you should so choose. I wouldn't recommend that especially if you're a new player. So the Vagabond is going to be kind of like your standard knight class with a pretty solid shield and sword to start. There's going to be some other classes that are more oriented around sorceries and incantations. So for example, your Prophet's going to have a lot of faith to start, so very good for incantations. Your Astrologer is going to have a lot of intelligence to start, so good for sorceries. I'm more of a melee style player, so I'm going to go more for a starting class that is geared towards that. There are 10 million ways to play this game. There's no right or wrong way. I'm going to be showing you one way to get through this game. And as I said, my goal is for this to be very easy to repeat for someone who is not so familiar with this type of game. And I really enjoy this type of build, so hopefully you'll have fun with it as well if you decide to follow what I'm doing. So that being said, I'm going to start with the Samurai class. The main reason being is, well, there's very good strength, dex, very good endurance, and also a decent amount of HP for starters. And also the Samurai starts with the longbow. So those of you who have seen some of my previous playthroughs of other Souls type games, you know that I like to use the bow, and I very much recommend it for new players as well because it'll allow you to attack with some range, and it'll allow you to kind of hit enemies from afar and really try to force one-on-one encounters instead of running into a larger group of enemies and fending for yourself that way, which usually doesn't end up well. I will say, your starting class doesn't have that much bearing on how your character is going to end up. It really is just going to dictate the very beginning of the game, and then you can build your character however you want from there. I could take this character that I'm starting as a samurai and I could make it a magic character if I wanted to later on. It really depends on how you invest your levels, and it really is up to you. The sky's the limit. The builds are pretty much infinite in this game. So really all this does is dictate how the first probably couple hours of the game is going to go. If you want to switch things up later, you definitely can do that. So anyway, let's move forward. I'm going to select a samurai, choose body type A. As for my name, I'm going to keep things simple. Just go with DB here. So type A, I'll go with a mature age. Origin, as I said, we just picked samurai. Keepsake, this is basically, it's a freebie that the game gives you at the very beginning. You don't have to pick one, but it is wise to pick one because this will give you just a little bit of a boost in a certain category. So I'm probably going to go with the Crimson Amber Medallion. This is a talisman you can equip that gives you a bit of extra HP to start the game off, and you keep this for the entire game. Other items here are going to be consumables, like, for example, this Stonesword Key. There are some locked doors that you need to use these items with, and they are consumable. I think there's 20 some odd locked doors throughout the game, and then the game gives you like 60 some odd keys. So you're going to have more than enough keys throughout the playthrough, but if you want to start with one, you have the option to do that, certainly. These prawns are good for boosting your defense, things like that. So as I said, you can per-use these. This will give you some extra runes, which runes are kind of the currency in this game. You also use them to level up, so you can get a little boost for that at the beginning if you'd like. But once you use this, it's gone for good. This golden seed will give you an extra charge in your healing flask to use. And so we're going to get plenty of these throughout the playthrough as well. But again, if you want that extra boost in your healing at the beginning of the game, you can certainly pick this. So there's really no right or wrong choice. As I said, I'm going to go with the HP. You can choose your base template. I'm not really going to spend too much time on the character creation. I'm just going to do something pretty quick. I want to kind of get into things here and not spend too much time on on this kind of cosmetic stuff. I'll change my hair up a bit. We'll go with this. Give myself a beard, I guess. And then we'll call it a day right here. So Samurai, Crimson Amber Medallion, that's how I'm starting out. And all right, let's go.
The fallen leaves tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog, the lands between. Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish. Soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all, claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome dung-eater, and Sir Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing. And one other, whom grace would again bless. A tarnished of no renown. Cross the fog to the lands between. To stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord.
All right, so here we are, a lowly tarnished, guided by grace, but we're alive, and we're gonna have ourselves a good time. So that cutscene just kind of gives a brief introduction to some of the characters we're gonna be learning more about later on in the game. So let's get acquainted with the controls here. If you press the start button, pulls up your menu. Let's look at our equipment. You'll see these tutorials kind of pop up, and I'm going to explain everything to you as well. This top row is going to be your right-handed armaments or weapons. The bottom row is going to be your left-handed armaments or weapons. I'm going to do a little bit of rearranging. As I said, we start with the longbow as a samurai class. I actually want my longbow to be on my right hand as well. And then I'm going to put my shield on my left hand. So you see I've got my shield on my left. So you use your kind of left shoulder buttons to control your left side. You'll see here if you press triangle on my PlayStation 5 controller, it pulls up the HUD. You'll see that on the left side of the screen it says parry. That means that when I press the L2 button that I'm going to be doing a parry. That's kind of my special skill that is on my left-handed armament right now. And so also what you can do is you can switch your weapons. So if you recall, I put my bow on my right hand. So if I press the right direction button on the D-pad, I switch from my sword, my Uchi Katana, to my bow, so I can switch between my weapons. And of course, as the left shoulder buttons control your left hand, your right shoulder buttons are going to control your right hand. Just a little bit of basics. So your R1 is going to be your quick attack. Your R2 is going to be your heavy attack. You can also charge your R2s for a even stronger attack. And that's that. There is more to it, and we're going to get to that as we kind of go through the tutorial here. But that's the gist of it, how it's going to work. So here we can pillage this. This gives us the Tarnished Wizened Finger. What this will do is it'll allow you, if you're playing online, it'll allow you to leave messages that other people playing the game are actually going to be able to see during their playthrough. I'm playing offline just because I want to be able to have more control. Since this is a guided walkthrough, I want to be able to have more control over the experience. I don't want invasions and things like that to happen when I'm trying to explain something. So I am playing offline, but it is a lot of fun to play online and interact with other people. So anyhow, that's going to be all we talk about right here. So we're going to go through this door. And in this starter area, there really isn't anything for you to pick up. It's pretty much just a straight path. You can look out. You can see the castle off in the distance. If you press the center button I'm on a PS5. If you press that center button, it's going to pull up your map. You can't really see any detail whatsoever on the map, but you can pull it up. And so all you can see is you see the Erd tree right there, and you see this big castle in front of us. But other than that, there's really not much else for us to do here. You can look around if you want, but there's really not any loot or anything like that to pick up. So we're just going to go straight across this bridge. And so I mentioned, yes, we're Tarnished. We're guided by grace. The grace that we're guided by is actually of the Erd tree. And, some of this stuff is going to make a little bit more sense as the game goes on. The lore is pretty dense. It's rather opaque. You have to really dig for it. But it's all there if you do want to do the digging, and it's really interesting. So if you want to run all the way up here, we're actually going to get into our first boss fight. And this boss is not meant to be defeated. He is going to wreck you, most likely, unless you are really good at this game. Just a couple things about combat. You press the circle button to roll, when you roll, you get invincibility frames. So you see he's kind of attacking me, but when I roll, the attacks are not landing because I'm rolling at the right time and I'm getting those invincibility frames. So you can roll backwards, you can backstep. So there's different ways you can evade. Rolling is going to be very critical in combat. Rolling is going to be one of our primary moves that we do in combat to evade damage. So once you get killed, you're going to see another cutscene here.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on his side. We found him here, after all. One of his kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring. Even if it does violate the Golden Order.
All right, so we've got our Flask of Crimson Tears and Flask of Cerulean Tears. So, real quick, you know, as the name of the game would indicate, we are after the Elden Ring. So that's kind of our main mission in our journey. So that boss that we just fought, you're not meant to beat it. It is meant to kill you and meant to give you a very warm welcome to this game. And if you end up killing it, you're actually going to end up here anyway, so it really doesn't change anything. All you get is you get its sword and shield, and we're actually going to have an opportunity to get that later on in the game anyway. So if you beat it, congratulations, you're much better at the game than most people. If you did not beat it, no worries, that's meant to happen anyways. So we wake up, we find ourselves here, and what we want to do now is you can talk to this ghost, and it says, "Brave Tarnished, take the plunge of learning remembrance, recall the arts of war, and your warrior's blood." So this is going to be officially our tutorial to most things about this game. So you can see, you know, square to use items, down on the D-pad to switch your items. So you see that right when we started here, we got our Flask of Crimson Tears and Flask of Cerulean Tears. The Flask of Crimson Tears is going to recover your HP. So you see that my HP bar is not all the way full. I have this equipped, so if I press square, I'm going to take a swig, and it's going to recover my HP. Likewise, your Flask of Cerulean Tears, if you see the blue bar, that's going to be your FP, your focus points. Your Flask of Cerulean Tears is going to recover your FP. So what we have now right in front of us is a Site of Grace. Resting at a Site of Grace will restore your HP, FP, and cleanse any status ailments. It will also refill all usages of your sacred flasks. However, most of the enemies you defeated will be revived. You can find Sites of Grace by going where the light converges. So these function as your checkpoints and your fast travel points as you get through the game. You'll be able to basically warp at any time to any of these sites of grace that you've unlocked as a checkpoint. So when you rest, as it says, if you've killed any enemies, most of them except for bosses and mini bosses are going to respawn. But you're going to be fully healed and your flask usages are going to be restored. So one thing that you can do here, you can pass the time, basically change the time of day. You can allocate your flasks. What that means is you can allocate between how many Cerulean tier flasks do you want to recover your FP versus how many Crimson flasks do you want to recover your HP. So I'm very much a melee type build. If you're more of a caster magic user, you're probably going to want to use more Cerulean Tears because you're going to be using a lot of magic, which magic uses your FP. For me, since I'm going to be kind of in the heat of combat, going toe-to-toe with the enemy, I'm probably going to be taking more damage. So at this point, I'm actually going to allocate all 4 of my flasks to Crimson, so that way I can have HP recovery. I'm not going to be using a whole lot of FP at the beginning of the game, so it just makes more sense for me to allocate it that way. But really, you kind of have to do the math and figure out, you know, what is it that you're going to be using more and which is more likely to help you. And anytime you rest at one of these sites of grace, and there are hundreds of them throughout the game, so don't worry about it. Anytime you rest at one of these, you can change your allocation any way that you want. It is totally flexible. So really cool. Here you can also memorize your spells. So again, if you're a caster and you want to pick which spells that you're able to use on the fly, you can allocate those spells here. You can also you have a storage chest. So you can put items into storage that you're not using so much, and that will free up some space in your inventory. It really just reduces the clutter. You can carry everything that you want, but if you just want things to be more organized, you can put things in your chest, and then you know, next time you get to a site of grace, you can, you know, take things out or put more things in, however you want. It's really flexible. So anyway, that's the gist of a Site of Grace. There are hundreds of them, as I said, throughout the game. And as we go through the game, we're actually going to be able to do more at these Sites of Grace. So each of these encounters is meant to teach you something. So this first one is just saying, hey, you can lock on. I recommend locking on to pretty much every enemy in the game, just about. It's a good practice to lock on by default. And you lock on by just pressing the right stick, the R3 button. And then this is just saying you can attack with your right hand armament with R1. So that's what we're doing here. And we're locking on. R2 is going to be your strong attack. And again, you can just tap it for kind of the quick thrust, or you can charge it up for an even more powerful attack. So it's really up to you. You kind of just be careful, because if you're charging up an attack, you're vulnerable during that charge up attack. So you really have to weigh the risk and the reward of, do I want to charge up for a more powerful attack, and be vulnerable, or do I just want to get a quick attack off that's going to do less damage, but I can maybe dodge away before I get hit. So also this is teaching you how to guard. So if you have a shield equipped in your left hand, you can press L1 to guard, and you'll block most damage. This shield that I have on now does not block 100% damage. And the way that you can check that is if you go to your inventory, or rather your equipment, you can look up your shield here, just hover over your shield, and you'll see that this shield in particular negates 68% of physical damage. So when it's up and I get hit, this is going to reduce that damage by 68% if my shield is up. So for example, if you started with the Vagabond class, you're going to start with the Heater Shield, which actually reduces 100% of physical attack damage. So this guy over here tries to hit you with his sword. You have your Heater Shield up with 100% damage reduction. You're going to take 0 damage. Now, the trade-off is when you get hit with your shield up, you take much less damage, but you're going to notice that your stamina bar, that green bar at the top, is going to take a big hit. And once that stamina bar is fully depleted, when you get attacked, that's actually going to break your guard if you have your shield up and leave you open to a critical hit. So you really have to manage that stamina even with your shield up, because you don't want your stamina bar to deplete with your shield up, because your guard will be broken and leave you open. So this is teaching you how to dodge. This guy comes up, and if you can roll away from attacks. And again, I tend to roll more than I block, but it's you can really adapt your play style however you want, whatever works best for you. Of course, you can jump in this game. So you see this guy's far away, so he's actually got a bow and arrow, or he's got a crossbow rather. You can lock onto him even from that distance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press the right D-pad button to bring my bow out, so I have range as well. And again, since it's equipped on my right hand, I'm going to be using R1 to fire arrows, or shoot arrows, I should say. And let me take a quick look at my equipment. You see I have 2 different types of arrows equipped by default. The Samurai class comes with 20 regular arrows and 10 fire arrows. So whichever arrow is equipped in this first slot here is going to be shot whenever you have your bow equipped. Whenever you press R1 is going to shoot this first type of arrow. Now the second type of arrow is going to be shot whenever you press R2. So you have access to both of these types of arrows that you have equipped at the same time. It really just depends if you press R1 for whatever's in your first slot, or R2 for whatever's in your second slot. And there are tons of different types of arrows that we're going to get access to in throughout the game. You can equip different ones here. You can mix and match. So whatever two you have equipped, this one's going to be shot with R1. This one's going to be shot with R2. So I'm going to take this guy out with just regular arrows. So I'm going to be shooting with R1. And you can see down there at the bottom of the screen when the HUD pops up, you see that there's a 20 and a 10. That represents the arrows that I have equipped. And so once this guy shoots, I'm going to dodge and then walk out and then press R1 to fire off a regular arrow. And then I'm going to take some cover again so he doesn't hit me. So you see he's still trying to shoot me. As long as I'm behind the wall, he can't. So I shot him twice, and that's I didn't get behind the wall in enough time, but I shot him twice, and that was enough to kill him. You can also manually aim your bow. So I have it out. So now if once you're kind of holding it, if you press the L1 button, it brings up this cursor. So you don't have to lock on to shoot. You can also aim manually with this cursor, and wherever the cursor is, if you press R1 or R2, you're going to shoot your arrow wherever this cursor is lined up. So you can manually aim. This is a longbow, so it does have a bit of range. You can even zoom in by pressing up and down on the D-pad with this. And so sometimes you're going to be too far away from an enemy to lock onto them, and you're going to need to shoot them manually. And so this mode allows you to do that. But generally, if you're close enough to locking on is plenty accurate. You see that you can acquire materials. So these are used for crafting. There's a crafting system in this game that we're going to get access to a little bit later. And so these materials that you pick up along the way will help you to craft items. You can craft, arrows. You can craft potions. I mean, there's tons of stuff you can craft in this game. And so it is a very useful system. So let's see here. Wielding armaments. Each hand can be equipped with up to 3 armaments, allowing you to toggle between them. As I was just showing you, I have 2 on my left hand, so I was toggling between my sword and my bow. Armaments can also be two-handed, making attacks more difficult to repel with shields and boosting the effective strength by 50%. So, if you want to two-hand your sword, for example, in your right hand, you're going to hold triangle and press R1 or whatever the equivalent is on your computer. So you want to hold, or on your controller rather. So you're going to hold triangle and then press L1 to two-hand your right-handed armament, or press L1 to two-hand your left-handed armament. You can two-hand your shield. I typically don't do that, but you can certainly do that, and it might be handy, like if you're using a great shield or something like that. That's a little bit more powerful and sturdy. So I'm going to be using I'm going to be two-handing my right-handed armament for this encounter, just to show you what it does. And as it said, it increases, as that note just said, it increases your strength by 50%. So what that means is your character obviously has stats. And so if you go to your status, you see here that my strength is at a level 12. Well, when you two-hand your weapon, what that does is it adds 50% to that. So 50% of 12 is going to be 6. And so really what it is it kind of behind the scenes, if you're two-handing your weapon, it boosts your strength by 50%. So instead of having 12 strength, so to speak, I technically have 18, because 12 plus 6, I'm two-handing. So it does make your attacks a little bit more powerful, and it also makes it easier to break your opponent's guard, because your attacks are just going to be hitting harder in general. So while locked on, you can move the right stick left or right to change who you're targeted onto. That's what this tutorial's about. These guys have these weird backswings. They look like they're kind of drunk or something like that. Like they have these really long wind-ups that don't make a whole lot of sense. But this is your tutorial for bows. I've already kind of went through that with you. So this is the bridge that guy was sniping us from before. So we're actually up on the bridge now. Here we have another guy. This is teaching you how to do your skills. So you'll notice when we are one-handing our weapon and we have our shield, our skill is parry, which you can use to, if you parry at just the right time when an attack's about to land, you can leave the enemy open for a critical attack. So that's what parry is used for. I'm going to be doing some parrying later on in the game, but not right now. If you two-hand your weapon, your skill is going to then switch to what you have in your right hand. So currently on my right-handed, on my katana, I have the unsheath ability, which is the default ability. So what that means is if you hold L2, which again is the button that activates whatever ability you have active at the time, hold L2. What that does is that you see I stick my sword in the sheath, and then what happens if I press R2 is I get a special attack. So you see, it is very powerful. The unsheath attack is very powerful, and it covers a bit more range than just your normal, R1 or R2 attack. It covers a bit more range. But you'll notice when you're using these special skills on your swords and your whatever your right-handed armament is, anything that's other than, like, for example, a parry, when you notice when I'm using these special skills, it's actually using my FP. So using your special skills, you have to kind of use it sparingly, because each time you do it, it's going to cost you a small amount of FP. As I said, parrying is pretty much, I don't want to say it is the only skill, but it's one of the only skills that does not cost any FP. You can parry to your heart's content, as long as your timing is good. But if you're using your weapon art, for example, in this case on my katana, it's going to cost a small amount of FP, and then once you run out of FP, then you're not going to be able to do it anymore. So you can crouch. Stealth is a thing in this game. So if you press the L3 button down, you can crouch. If you sneak up behind an enemy successfully without them noticing you, you can get a free backstab. Actually, I missed the backstab there. That wasn't that. I mean, it kind of was a backstab, but it wasn't a proper backstab. You see here, there's kind of bushes. You can crouch through these bushes and be a little bit more stealthy. I'm going to try to get a proper backstab on this guy. So I walked right up to his back and then just tapped R1. And that is a backstab, which it counts as a critical attack. You're going to be doing much more damage with the backstab than you would be with a regular attack. And backstabs can be a strategy in this game. If you can get backstabs on enemies, you're going to be doing a lot of damage to them. And then the other way to do a critical hit is if you parry, and then that'll leave them open to a riposte from the front side. But the parry you have to have the correct timing. If you mess up the timing on a parry, then you're going to get hit and take a lot of damage. So parrying is a very high risk, high reward sort of deal. So stance breaking. So enemies have posture. And so if you break their stance or break their posture, so to speak, it leaves them open to do a critical hit, much like a parry would. So this is something that's kind of new in this game. Each enemy has an invisible bar called super armor. And once you deplete that quote unquote super armor bar, which is completely invisible, you can't see it at all. What happens is an enemy, they'll stagger and it'll leave them open to a critical attack. So that's what this is telling you. So charge attacks and jump attacks make it easy to break an enemy's stance. So I don't think I've gone over a jump attack. I've done it a few times, but I haven't gone over it. A jump attack is literally you just jump and then you can press R2 or R1. I tend to do heavy jump attacks, so jump and then press R2. A jump and R2, a jump R2 attack is very good at breaking the enemy's stance or depleting that super armor meter that you can't see. And also a charged R2 is very good at depleting that invisible meter. You know, your light attacks, your R1 attacks are going to deplete that meter, but not nearly at the rate that a jump heavy attack or a charged heavy attack is going to deplete it. So those are very good tools to have in your arsenal, those jump attacks and those charged heavies at the right time, because it can give you a stagger, and that can be the difference maker in a boss fight. So I'm going to do a jump attack heavy on this guy. And then that was enough to stagger him. So once he's staggered, you see that leaves him open for a critical hit. So whenever you kind of hear that noise and you see the enemy just kind of wobble a little bit, that means that they're staggered and they're open for a critical hit. So you can do, as I showed before, you can do a critical hit for backstab. You can do a critical hit from the front as long as you get a stagger. Again, if you parry an enemy, you have to hit them with the parry at just the right time, and that'll leave them open to a stagger as well. So we have these things in this game called Stakes of America. What these are what you could kind of call sub-checkpoints. They're not a full site of grace, but what happens if you die near one of these, you can actually choose to respawn at it. So it just so happens that this game, in some cases, there's going to be one of these right in front of a boss fight. So if you lose the boss fight, you're going to be able to respawn right outside of it, and you're not going to have to backtrack too much. So anytime you see a wall like a fog wall like this traverse the mist, that generally means it's going to be a boss fight. So this is going to be our first boss fight, but don't worry, this guy's not too hard. He's really still meant to be teach you one of the game's main mechanics. This guy is meant to teach you about guard counters, and guard counters is something that are new to this game for those of you who are familiar with Souls. So what's happening if you guard with your shield and you get hit? If you press R2 immediately after blocking an attack, you're going to do a guard counter. Guard counters are also really good for breaking the enemy's super armor and getting you towards that stagger. So R2, the guard counter attacks in this game are very powerful. So it's a good thing to learn how to do early on, and these are going to help you out very early in the game as well. So again, how you do that is you hold your shield up with L1, keep it held up, and then you want to take the attack. You want to allow the attack to hit your shield. And immediately after it hits your shield, you're going to press R2. So we're going to demonstrate that here with this mini boss. So shield up. Once it lands, hit R2. And in this case, it staggered him right away. So we're going to take the riposte, and it's basically going to kill him in one hit. So that's what this boss is meant to teach you. This boss is meant to teach you how to do that guard counter. So again, you take the hit with your shield. Immediately after taking the hit, press R2, and you're going to do your guard counter attack. And it does a pretty sizable amount of their super armor or posture damage, whatever you want to call it. And as you saw there, it allowed me to get a critical hit right away. I want to say that that the guard counters are not foolproof, because sometimes an enemy will hit your shield and they'll be in the middle of a combo. And if you try to do your guard counter mid combo for your enemy, sometimes their next attack will hit you. And if it hits you, and if they're in the middle of the combat and if they're in the middle of a combo and their next attack hits you, then it's actually going to knock you out of your guard counter. You're not going to be able to do it. So sometimes you still have to time it correctly, but it is very useful, and it is much easier to do than executing a properly timed parry. I'll put it that way. So up here, for all our hard work, we get a new gesture. So gestures, if you pull up your menu, you see they're over here on the right-hand side, and you can assign them to different slots. So let's see, you can switch this one for whatever you want. You have some of them by default, and I think we got, what was it, strength that we just got? I forget which one we just got, but anyway, you can equip your gestures and you can use them. You can use them as a greeting in PvP or in co-op, or however you want to use them. You can choose. So anyway, that's it for this area. That's pretty much the long and short of the tutorial, and that's a good primer for combat. It really gives you a flavor for the different types of moves you can do. Some things that it didn't teach you is you can actually do a backstep attack. So if you're standing still and you tap circle, you can do a backstep. But if you follow that up with, let's say, an R1, you're going to do a backstep attack. So that kind of gives you some distance from the enemy, but then also allows you to close the gap real quick. You can also do a rolling attack. I don't do those things too often. I do jump heavy attacks all the time. Charged heavy attacks I do when I can. And so yeah, that's, generally there's a lot of different types of moves you can do. And we're going to get a lot of practice pretty early on in the game as well. So we got ourselves another Site of Grace. If you used any of your flasks in that area, you can rest here and charge them back up and get your HP all the way back up. So this is you can examine this, and you can use a Stonesword Key. Now, if you started with the Stonesword Key, you can use it right here. I would not recommend it. This area is very difficult. We're going to come back to it later. So even if you have the Stonesword Key, I would not recommend using it here. But anytime you see these little imp statues here, that means that you can use a Stonesword Key here. We're going to be coming back here later, as I said. And, we're going to be seeing these throughout the world. So you see this fog. We cannot go through this fog. The way that you get through this door is by using your Stonesword Keys. Let's see here. We have Tarnished Finger Severer and Tarnished Furled Finger. This is multiplayer items used for co-op. And so what we're going to do now is go on up this elevator here, and it's going to take us to the top. And lo and behold, we have Limgrave. So this is our first taste of the open world. This whole expanse is completely explorable. So this world is massive. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you go. What you have access to right here is just a sliver of the entirety of this world. This, as I said before, this game is just unfathomably massive. So we're going to have ourselves a good time, but we're going to be here a while. So when you walk out right here, you can see this just gives you a tutorial on summoning pools. It says in each area you may find effigies of martyrs. These effigies are summoning pools. You'll find it easy to summon other players at these locations as co-op and hostile summoning signs created with small effigies gather at summoning pools. So if you want to do some co-op, these are generally a good thing to go off of when we get this small golden effigy at that spot. So what we're going to do now is we have another Site of Grace right here. And once you unlock it, this one has what's called a Guidance of Grace. Grace exists to guide the Tarnished and lead them along the proper path. Even now, some Sites of Grace retain their power. Their golden rays will guide you along their way. So this is actually showing you, hey, if you want to progress the story, follow this giant ray of light. And if you pull up your map, it also kind of points you in that direction. So this is basically telling us, hey, this is the story path. If you want to progress through the game, this is your progression route, more or less. You don't have to follow this path. You can go anywhere else you want, but this is kind of just giving you a little nudge in the right direction. And as you see, we have our other Sites of Grace unlocked here. We can travel to them at any point we want. And so as we unlock more of these as we go through the map, we're going to be able to travel back to these points. And again, you can rest and and level up your flasks and things like that. This is our first NPC of the game. We're going to talk to him. I did take a poll on my channel a while back, and the vast majority of y'all said that you wanted to keep the cutscenes intact and most of the dialogue intact. So that's what I intend to do for this playthrough. Keep the cutscenes there, not skip them, and not skip over the dialogue. So we're going to talk to this guy. And let's see. This is just a tutorial on the map. We're going to find map fragments, and then it tells you about the beacons of light and that kind of good stuff. So let's talk to this guy.
Oh yes, Tarnished, are we? Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
Okay, so general rule, anytime you encounter an NPC in the world, you're going to want to fully exhaust their dialogue.
You, however, there is one shining ray of hope for even the maidenless. Me, Varre. Take care to listen. Are you familiar with grace? The golden light that gives life to you, Tarnished. You may also behold its golden rays, pointing in a particular direction at times. That is the guidance of grace, a path that a Tarnished must travel. Indeed. Grace's guidance holds the answers. It will lead you, Tarnished, to the path you are meant to follow, even if it leads you to your grave.
So as a general rule, you want to keep talking until they have nothing new to say, because sometimes if you want to progress all of the NPC quest lines, they might not move on to the next part of their quest unless you've heard all that they have to say. So you'll see me a lot as soon as a bit of dialogue runs out, I just kind of circle back to them to talk to them again. I suggest you doing the same. You don't have to listen to them talk. You can actually skip through their dialogue if you want. So it's really up to you on how you want to go about doing it. So I'm going to talk to them again.
Grace's guidance will reveal the path forward, most certainly, to Castle Stormvale, over on the cliff. The home of the decrepit demigod, Godrick the Grafted. It's time you set off, I should think, to Castle Stormvale, if you seek the Elden Ring.
Okay, so he's mentioned a few things. We are maidenless. And so our Maiden's going to be kind of our helper throughout the game, but we have not found her yet, so... there's a few things that we got to do. That's Thornville Castle up there. That's what he's talking about. And that's where these kind of rays of light are going to be guiding us. We're not going to be going there yet. We're going to be doing some other things first. And you can see the map here actually keeps track now of where your NPCs are. So it says here we have White Mask Varre. So merchants and other NPCs like that we come across are also going to show up here on the map. So it helps you kind of know and keep track of where they're at. Okay, so his dialogue is done, so we're gonna head off on our way here. So on our way to this church is where the light is pointing. You'll see this guy riding a horse. This is the Tree Sentinel. He is very strong. I suggest not fighting him at this point in the game because he will kill you. We're gonna come back and get him later, but fighting him now is a death sentence. And unless you fancy beating your head against a wall for 2 or 3 hours and still maybe not even killing him because he is that difficult, I would suggest taking the long way around and getting through here to this church to our next site of grace. So once you, even if he's chasing after you, if you activate and rest at this site of grace, it'll reset him to the Tree Sentinel to his original location, so he will not be charging after you any longer. That tutorial that just popped up was for fast travel. So as I said, you can fast travel to any site of grace you've unlocked already. You can see that the map is pretty barren right now. We're actually going to we're going to get what's called a map fragment, which is going to fill in some of the detail on this map so we can see just the landscape and the terrain and that kind of stuff, what in general things look like. So here we are at the Church of Ella. There's a couple things for us to take care of. If you go right outside here, again, not all the way to the Tree Sentinel, but right by this post, you're going to have a gold rune. And these are consumable items, okay? So gold runes, if you check out your inventory, if you consume this, it's going to give you a small number of runes. As I said, runes are your currency in this game. You also use them to level up. We can't level up yet, but we'll be able to do that shortly. So if you check, I have 606 runes here. You can see that in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So what I like to say is those are my runes in my wallet. So if I die, my wallet's going to get left behind. Those runes are going to go to 0, and I'm going to have one opportunity to get back to them, to pick them up. And if I get back to that spot where I lost them, then I get my wallet back. I get those 606 runes back. The runes that are in my inventory in the form of these rune items, I call these are the runes in my bank. So even if I get mugged, even if I die and I lose my wallet, my bank account is still true. My bank account is still there. So unless you actually use this item to get the runes, to move the runes to your wallet, you can die however many times you'd like, and you're still going to have this item there. So I suggest not using these items right away, because if you die, you keep these items and you can use them later to gain more runes. So what I do is I use these items kind of as a stopgap. Like if I'm at a point where I'm leveling up and I'm just shy of that next level, I'm going to pop one of these rune items to give me that little buffer that I need to get to my next level, or to buy that item, or whatever the case may be. So do not use these right away, because once you use them and they go to your wallet, then they are at risk if you die. As long as they're sitting here in your inventory, they are safe in your bank account. So just a little bit of advice there. If we go ahead over here, we get a smithing stone. Smithing stones allow you to strengthen your weapons. And if you go to the smithing table, you see you can strengthen your armament. And so you see here, there's a number inside the parentheses and outside of the parentheses. The number inside the parentheses is how many we have. So we have 1, but the number outside of the parentheses is the requirement to upgrade. So you need 2 to upgrade. We only have 1. So unfortunately, we cannot upgrade right now, but we'll be able to shortly. And upgrading these weapons, I mean, it really just enhances your damage output. And upgrading your weapons is the best way to deal more damage. Obviously, leveling up does help a little bit, but not as much as actually upgrading your weapon. And just a little bit right here. So you see, if you look at my attack power, I do 115 physical damage plus 18. So that plus 18, or plus whatever number is on your screen, the plus is your scaling. So the scaling is based on what level you are. So, for example, you see the attribute scaling for this particular weapon has a D in strength and a D in dex. So if you level up your strength or your dexterity, that plus number is going to go up ever so slightly with each of those levels. So let's say if I leveled up my strength one more time, I might get a plus 19 instead of a plus 8, or maybe even a plus 20 instead of a plus 18. And same thing goes for my dex. So the best scaling is actually going to be S scaling, and those are going to be for your strongest weapons that are pretty highly upgraded, all the way to E scaling, which is the lowest. So D scaling, not that great, but as we upgrade this weapon, that might improve some. You'll hear me refer to scaling throughout the playthrough. And that's the gist of it. There's also weapons out there that scale on intelligence or faith or arcane. You'll see that this weapon that I have doesn't scale off any of those stats, but there are some weapons out there that there are tons of weapons in this game, and that scale off of all sorts of different stats. So play around with what you like to do, with what works best for you. And as I said, there's 10 million different ways to play this game. And the Uji Katana is a really solid weapon, so we're going to be sticking with that for most of the beginning of the game, and it'll do us very well. So over here we have ourselves a merchant. We're going to talk to him real quick.
And I can also see that you're not after my throat. Then why not I am Kale.
Okay, so him, we can sell stuff. We can also buy stuff.
You know,
and he has some extra advice for us.
A crafting kit. The crafting kit allows you essential, really. The kit costs a bundle, but the important thing is that you.
Okay. So if you go to purchase, you open up his store. We're going to be buying a lot of stuff from him, but obviously we do not have the cash to do all of it right now, so we're going to come back to him a couple times. throughout the playthrough. We're going to start with the crafting kit. The crafting kit is what allows you access to the crafting system in this game. If you don't buy this, you won't be able to craft. So I do recommend picking this up early. Also, picking up a torch is not a bad idea. You'll see here that we have these recipes. So what these do is these expand your crafting repertoire of things that you're able to craft. So you see with this one, if you buy this one, you can craft bone arrows. This one allows you to craft glowstones and cured meat. This one allows you to craft holy water pots. You see he also has arrows for sale. This guy is my main arrow merchant throughout most of the game. I buy lots of arrows from him just to restock my supply. You can also buy throwing knives from him, a telescope. A lot of these in these two things are just kind of hints for things throughout the game. We're going to be coming back and we're going to be buying most of this stuff from him. That's going to help us out in the long run, but we obviously can't afford all of them right now. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to consume this rune, and we're gonna go on and buy some extra stuff.
What is it?
So let's see. I bought the torch. We'll go on and buy this recipe that'll allow us to craft bone arrows, and that's about all. We only have 6 runes left. These cracked pots, these are what are going to allow you to craft and throw projectile, like let's say firebomb type items. You won't be able to craft and throw those until you have cracked pots. And so the number of cracked pots you have is basically the number that you're going to be able to craft and hold in your inventory at any given point in time. So, you know, those will be good to have at some point. And this is some extra armor. So as I said, we're going to be circling back to this guy a few times and getting his stuff. We're going to definitely be getting the telescope, these recipes, these hints, and that sort of stuff. But obviously we can't do it all now. So as far as how we're going to approach this game, there are some guides out there who will take the first 3 or 4 hours of the game, and they're just going to run you all over the world and pick up a bunch of items that are going to make you overpowered really early. You're basically going to be able to one-shot mostly everything at the beginning of the game. This walkthrough is going to be more geared towards a natural, organic progression through the world. I'm not going to take you all the way across the different corners of the map to get you different things at the very beginning of the game that'll make you overpowered. However, if you want to approach the game that way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link a couple of guides in the description. One of them from Boomstick Gaming and one of them from Vati Vidya. The Boomstick Gaming one is a little bit shorter. It'll get you most of what you need. We're going to be getting it anyways at some point in the playthrough. But this will give you a bit of a boost at the start of the game if that's how you want to go about it. And then the Vati Vidya one is way more detailed and gets way more stuff, and it takes a lot longer. But you will be really overpowered if you get that stuff at the beginning of the game. But as I said, this playthrough is going to be more geared towards a natural progression. I really want to maintain the sense of awe and wonder that this game conveys. This is a masterpiece, and I want to take time to stop and smell the roses and really enjoy everything this game has to offer, and kind of take the game as it was intended to be taken. So as I said, feel free to follow one of those guys that I'm linking to if you want to get some of that stuff earlier than intended. But this guide is not going to be geared towards getting that kind of stuff. And as you can see, I'm kind of sneaking up on some of these guys and getting free backstabs. I picked up some, let's see, I picked up some kukris back there. Those are throwing knives that do bleed damage. Up here, you're going to see some ruin fragments. These are materials used for crafting. And down here, we have our first scarab. So this is a red scarab. So what happens, I'm just going to pop a flask real quick just to show you what he does. So I've got 3 of my 4 flasks, and I'm going to do a jump attack on him. If you kill one of these red scarabs, they're all throughout the world. If you kill one, what they do is they replenish your flask usages. So you see I had 3 before. Since I killed him, I just got a flask usage back. So there's red scarabs that replenish your red flasks, and there's blue scarabs that replenish your blue flasks, and there's other colored scarabs throughout the world that give you items and whatnot, various items when you kill them. So just be on the lookout for those. If you heard that kind of chiming noise, that was the indicator that there was a scarab around. So if you hear that noise, it's not a bad idea to take a look around and see if there's a scarab. As you can see, there's animals, wildlife. You can kill the animals, and some of them will drop materials for you for your crafting. So since we did pick up the crafting kit, let's look at the item crafting menu. So these will show you the materials required to craft something. So the fire pot, as I mentioned before, you'll need a cracked pot for those to use those. Here we can use roa raisin or craft roa raisins, and these heal. Once we get our horse, these will heal our horse's HP. These require ruin fragments. What these do is they're kind of like markers you can use to show kind of where you've been. If you're in a dungeon or something like that, these will help you kind of find your way a bit. And as I said, you can craft arrows, but we don't have the materials for those. So these will show you what you can craft. And our repertoire is going to expand as we get more of those crafting kind of cookbook things that show us different things that we can craft. And, we'll by the end of the game, we're going to have tons of things that we can craft. So right now, you see this outpost. There's a bunch of enemies. We're actually going to go around the side of this outpost because you can see there's a site of grace over there, and we want to get to that site of grace before making anybody too angry at us. While we're walking over there, I did mention before when we picked up these kukiris, they inflict a status effect known as blood loss. If you look at our katana, you'll see that this also causes, so look at the bottom of the screen, it causes blood loss buildup of 45. So bleed is a status effect in this game that takes place if you have a weapon that causes blood loss and you hit an enemy enough times with it, it's going to basically hemorrhage a sizable chunk of their health all at once. And so bleed is very, very powerful in this game. So if you're using a weapon that does bleed damage, such as the Uchi Katana that we have equipped now, or such as these Kukiri, if you get that bleed damage, it's going to do a certain percentage of their health right off the top. And bleed is a very, very powerful tool in this game to have at your disposal. And there's many other status effects that are applicable in this game, and we'll kind of just discuss those as we come across them. But for now, bleed is something that we're able to do right now, so just to be aware. So let's touch this point of grace here. Sometimes emotes are tied to your action button, and sometimes if you move the controller when you press the button, you'll do your emote. So you see me do that sometimes. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. I just did it again. All right, here we go. Touch the grace. There we go. Okay, so if you rest at this one, we're going to get a cutscene.
Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina. I offer you an accord. Have you heard of the Finger Maidens? They serve the Two Fingers, offering guidance and aid to the Tarnished. But you, I am afraid, are maidenless. I can play the role of Maiden, turning runes into strength to aid you in your search for the Elden Ring. You need only take me with you to the foot of the Erd Tree.
All right, so we're going to accept. We are no longer maidenless. We have ourselves a maiden, guys.
Then it's settled. Summon me by grace to turn runes into strength. Ah, another matter. I bequeath to you this ring.
All right, so we get our Spectral Steed Whistle.
Use it to traverse great distances. It will summon a spectral steed named Torrent. Torrent has chosen you. Treat him with respect.
Okay, so now you'll notice we have access to level up now that we have our Maiden.
Let my hand rest upon you. For but a moment, share them with me.
Okay,
Your thoughts,
so you'll see we have 267 runes
goals you would follow.
currently held. We need 811 for our next level. So we cannot level up at this point in time, but if you want to level up and you have enough runes, you can do it at any site of grace. You can choose to level up. And so you can allocate your stats or your levels to whatever of these stats that you want. And that's how you create your build in this game. So of course, as I said, I'm going to be more of a melee focused player. So most of my levels are going to go into vigor, endurance, strength, and dexterity. And really how you allocate your stats is based on how you want to play. If you're more of a caster, you're obviously going to be putting more levels into either intelligence or faith, or some combination of both. It really depends on how you want to play the game. As I said, the sky's the limit. There's an infinite number of possibilities. But so when it comes time to level up, that's how you do it. And we're going to be doing a lot of that in this game. And as soon as we get the runes to do so. All right, so she leaves us alone. And we got our Spectral Steed Whistle. So what this is going to allow us to do is it allows us to summon our horse pretty much anywhere in the open world. You can summon your horse at will. This is also a good time to go over our pouch. And what your pouch is basically a quick access toolbar. So you know you have your normal items that you cycle through using the D-pad on the bottom part of your screen there. You can cycle through, and you can certainly equip your Spectral Steed Whistle there. So these slots down here are how you equip to your quick bar that you can use or your normal item pouch, I guess you could say. And the way that you cycle through those items is by pressing down on the D-pad. So you can put your Spectral Steed Whistle right here. But say you want to heal, or you want to go between healing or using a different item or using your steed whistle, you're going to have to cycle through manually and do it. And sometimes in the heat of battle, you're going to be fumbling through your different items, and that might not be a good thing. So anytime you use your Spectral Steed Whistle, you're going to summon your horse. If you press the L3 button, you're going to dismount. And you can do that at any time, really. So instead of having my Steed Whistle here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to equip my Steed Whistle on my pouch. So I personally like to have it on the down arrow. So what you do here is you highlight which pouch slot you want to put it in. So I want it on the down, on the down button. So I'm going to put it right here. And what that'll do is it'll permanently, no matter what I have equipped in my normal item slots here, if I hold down the triangle button, you'll see that it switches from my normal items to whatever is on my hotbar. So currently I have my Steed Whistle on the down button. So all I have to do is at any point in the game, if I hold triangle or press down, I'm going to summon my horse. And that is going to come in handy. Later on in the game, there's going to be other items that I equip to the other directional buttons on my quick pouch. But that's how you use it. So what we're going to do now is we could easily warp, but I just want to demonstrate the horse real quick. So I just held triangle and pressed down because, again, I have it equipped to that spot. We're going to travel back to that church we were just at. And you'll notice there's some extra enemies out here at night. Generally, as a general rule, I will be traveling across the map during the day. And if it's nighttime, I'm going to forward the time to the next day because there are some enemies and bosses that only spawn at night. And generally, they are fairly powerful and definitely not enemies you want to encounter at the beginning of the game. But I just want to, I did this because I just wanted to showcase riding the horse. You can jump, and actually you can double jump with your horse, which is a nice feature. You can't double jump off your horse. You can only double jump when you're mounted on your horse. If you press circle, that's how you sprint with your horse. You can also do combat on your horse. So if you press R1, you're going to swing to your right side, light attack. R2, heavy attack to your right side. L1, going to be a light attack to your left side. L2 going to be a heavy attack to your left side. So the combat, a bit of a different concept. When you're on horseback, you don't have access to both hands, both-handed armaments. You're basically going to default to whatever's in your right hand, but you choose what direction or what side of your horse you swing based on what button you're pressing. So play around with these buttons when you're not in the heat of combat just to get used to the feel for how you fight on horse. There are some fights that we're going to do on horseback in this game, and so it's a really cool thing that you're able to do in this game. So let's go ahead and dismount. We're actually going to rest at this side of grace. And you'll notice it is nighttime. For this next event to trigger, it actually has to be night. So make sure you rest at this side of grace. The same thing will happen actually if you fast travel. But actually, I think I need to fast travel. So let's see. I'm going to travel here real quick, and then we're going to travel back. Because there is a NPC who spawns back at that Church of Ella at nighttime. And so we're going to want to make sure that we trigger that sequence real quick. There she is.
Tarnished, may I have a word? A pleasure to meet thee, Tarnished. I am the witch Renna. I'd heard tell of a Tarnished hurtling about atop a spectral steed, and upon looking into the matter, the talk I surmise is of thee. Thou art possessed of the power, no? To call forth a spectral steed named Torrent.
Okay, so we can call the spectral steed.
As I had hoped, I was entrusted this for thee by Torrent's former master.
Okay, so from her we get the spirit calling bell and the lone wolf ashes.
The bell of calling forth spirits. Summon them with it. From ash and return to the Erdtree, the spirits will obey thine command but briefly. As they recall battles past, now it is thine, to do with as thou wishest.
Okay, so summoning spirits. With a spirit calling bell, you can use ashes to summon various spirits. Summoning typically consumes FP. You can only summon one type of spirit at a time, and you cannot summon spirits during multiplayer. So, speaking of the quick pouch, we just got the wolves, the lone wolf ashes. So what happens is when we summon these wolves, they actually come to our aid in battle. And what they'll do is they'll attack the enemies around us. They'll help us in combat. And most importantly, what they'll do is they'll take a lot of the aggro off of us. So meaning they'll distract the enemies and around us, and that'll allow us to more easily get hits on our enemies that we're up against. So I'm going to put this on my left pouch slot. So now if you see when I hold triangle, if I press down, that's for my horse. If I press left, that is for my wolves. You cannot, the thing about the spirit ashes is you cannot summon them at will, like you can your horse. You can only summon them when you'll see there'll be like a little gravestone, tombstone icon on the left-hand side of your screen. Whenever you see that icon, that means that your ashes are able to be summoned. So you can see that tombstone icon at the left-hand side of my screen. That means that my summons can, my spirit summons can be summoned right now. So if I were to hold triangle and press right on my D-pad, I would summon them right now, and they would actually engage those enemies over there. And the other thing is they do cost FP to summon. So it's not free of charge. You will use FP. And so again, you're gonna be getting to this, trade-off of how many red flasks do I want versus how many blue flasks do I want. And again, you can change your allocation at any point you want. Right now I've got all red flasks and no blue flasks, but later on in the game, I'm probably gonna give myself at least one blue flask. And really is up to you how you choose to do that. And so, in some cases you might want to do your summon, the spirit summon, and then immediately use a blue flask to replenish that FP if you're using a lot of FP. So, play around with it and figure out what's comfortable for you. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to advance the time. I'm going to pass the time until morning. As I said, pretty much any exploration I'm going to do not at nighttime. And again, we're going to circle back later and get a lot of these nighttime enemies later on in the game when we're strong enough for it. So anyway, next time we are actually going to tackle that encampment right in front of us, and we're going to start exploring and getting stronger and really diving into this game. So I cannot wait, but thank you guys so much for for coming along with me. And really appreciate each and every single one of y'all. Really appreciate y'all's support. So looking forward to going through this game. It's going to be a long journey, but an amazing one. And thank you guys so much for going along on the ride with me. And I hope that you guys are getting a lot of value out of these guides. So I'll catch you next time. Take care and have a good one.